Well, thank you for sharing, Carol. That's great. We're all back. Those of us who are left on the call, we're all back after a practice session. So thank you for sharing. I'd love to hear anyone else's experiences of being in the practice group and what you made of it, or what you managed to achieve.
What I'd like to add is that what he did, which was really cool, was he would say, pop in and be the other person that she had an issue with, and pop out and be yourself. And that was a lovely intervention.
Oh, great. Do you want to say a little bit? Who was that, Jack?
Yes, I was Jack Lidback.
Ah, Jack, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, Jack, do you want to just say a little bit more about what inspired that and how it worked? Maybe, Carol, if you could mute yourself again.
Yeah, of course. I cheated. I didn't go through the protocol. I wanted to be a little bit more clean, even more. So I had her be the other person as well, and having her telling herself what she needed and wanted to hear.
Right.
So it's like I think I don't remember exactly, but I think I'm inspired by Ulf Sandström in Sweden. And I used that before, and it seems a little bit more safer even than guessing.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing. I think there's all kinds of variations that people can do with this work, depending on your previous experience and the context that you work in. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Any other, please, if you just give me a wave or write yes in the chat box or something so I can identify if someone wants to share. We'd love to hear a little more from what people have experienced there. I can only see a proportion of it now. So we've got Rebecca. Rebecca, perhaps you could unmute yourself and share. Hello.
Hi, this is Rebecca. I'm in New York City. Hi, thank you, Tony and all. Thank you. There was something, I think I originally got this tip from Louise McKay of having my partner was Elizabeth Williams and having her do the strokes herself, but rather than whichever way she would usually do the arm havening, do the opposite. So you feel as if you're being havened by somebody else. You know, it's a very different feeling. And I've actually done that for myself, having that represent someone else doing havening for me, and it really works. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen her teaching that. Yes, like you would cross your hands like this, and
whatever would be the most natural way, you go to the opposite. So I had her, that person that was playing the role, I was playing the role, but then she havened as if that person were havening her.
Got you. Yeah, nice share. Thank you for that, Rebecca. Yeah. Keep waving if you've got something you want to say, and I'll see if I can catch you. Ah, yes. So Lou.
Yeah, just to briefly, we thought we had Kerry in the room, but she didn't appear to be on. So there was Christine and I think what was interesting was Christine really found that she went into the feeling much more quickly than she thought, and came to a resolution. So it was very simple, but I think really, I don't know, maybe Christina would like to say something about that. Just as a very small incident, but really engaged with it well.
Yeah, I thought it was nothing that could bother me, what happened this morning. And so I thought we would take something very easy, no big thing, a person who should come and help, and he didn't show up. So, well, that's no problem, but okay, we take that. And it went from disappointment to angry, and I was so surprised, and the feeling of surprise also. And when I got the feelings, it were very easy to clear. So it was a good, and I also felt that it was threads to other things, but I didn't follow the threads because then we had to take so much more time. but just this one was very good to do.
Yeah, it was a little unusual with the time scale being forced so much, but thank you for your share. That's really helpful. Thank you, Christina. If you could just mute yourself again, and we're just trying to keep the feedback as little as possible. Thank you. And we had a wave. I just saw, oh yeah, so Robin Laurie.
Yeah, thank you. Robin from New Zealand. Just two things I'd like to comment on. Firstly, Alison, for a great demo. It actually had a reaction in me, which I took myself offline to go and do some one-on-one role therapy with my father. That it just came up within me, and I thought, I've got to speak. My voice has to be heard. And that's what my big issue had been. So thank you for that. And then I worked with Lisa and over an issue that I was having currently in my apartment block at the moment. But the synchronicity that I want to share is that I noticed on Lisa's wall, on her shelf, she had a little angel, and I had one the same, and my angel is hope. And if you show yours, Lisa Matthews, this was given to me from a client, and I spotted one on Lisa's shelf, and hers was given to her from her client. So there was some synchronicity that Lisa was the person that needed to work with me today on my issue. So thank you, Lisa. You did a great session.
I think it was meant to be, wasn't it, that you were in that particular breakout group. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Now, we are coming up to the hour, and I do like to always wrap up for those people who have set specific time aside for this meeting. But what we're going to do is we're going to leave the meeting open beyond the hour for those who want to continue to ask questions or offer more of what they've experienced in the breakout groups. If for any reason someone had an experience in the breakout group that you feel you need extra support with, please contact myself. I'm on the Facebook group, or you can contact me at my email address, which is tbaha_success@gmail.com, tbaha_success@gmail.com, or like I say, on the Facebook group. And then myself or Lou or Alison can connect with you if you feel that you need that input from us. So thank you for your patience with a few sort of technical niggles. And I'm realizing you're all absolutely right about the whole 39 thing. I'm just like, it just seemed so many groups, and it seemed like not enough people came back with the numbers we started. But I think that's just me and my maths. So thank you for your patience. And for those of you who can stay, we'll be around for about another half hour, unless you all disappear. And we'll leave it recording so that questions get asked or shares that get made. Notice, Michael, do you want to just, you're just waving goodbye? Waving goodbye. Okay, those of you who need to go, thank you so much.
Can I just share something?
Safe.
Can I just share something before those people go?
Oh, listen, yeah, go.
Yeah, that's fine. It was a message that she'd sent me on Messenger to say, I can't stop smiling. And you handled the whole thing so calmly. It feels wonderful to have shifted the energies around that memory.
Wow.
So lovely.
Speaks volumes. Speaks volumes. So those of you who need to go, goodbye. Keep safe. Look after yourselves and each other. And myself and Louise and Alison will stay on for a bit for any further questions.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Okay, let's see who we're left with in a moment or two. A lot of people just logging off. We'll just let things settle out for a moment. If you've got a question you want to put in the chat box, please do. But we can, I think it's settled down nicely. We're down to about 17 people now. If anyone would like to share something from their session, that would be fabulous. I mean, give me a wave. I can see you all now on one screen. We can take that. Anyone got a share? Or if not, we can have a question. If anyone's got a question, give me a wave as well.
I'm trying to, there was a slight delay there because I couldn't work out how to wave, but I'll just wave like that. I was trying to find a little icon.
No, I meant literally.
But, you meant actually wave. Okay, I'm waving.
Yeah.
I just really wanted to say something about the really lovely session that I observed with Natalie as the practitioner and Florence as the client, because there was a really great learning in there. The actual issue didn't have anything to do with another person, but what Natalie beautifully did was, and I think you were just going on instinct, really, weren't you, Natalie? It was an issue to do with clutter and clutter clearing, and Natalie very beautifully just threw in Marie Kondo, who Florence immediately resonated with because she's got her book, and because of this, she was able to kind of step into the role of an expert clutter clearer who's able to make really quick, easy decisions, and from there the whole thing shifted for you, didn't it, Florence?
Yeah, it did immediately. It was incredible because part of the issue was the indecision about what to do with the books I wanted to take out of the room, and Marie Kondo is an expert at choosing instinctively the right things to keep. So it was brilliant to throw in both the person that I know the method of, I have her book, and to in a way address what was said in the as part of the problem, without me realizing this decision-making thing is what might take some time. Thank you, Natalie. It really was brilliant. The whole thing.
Soak up that praise there, Natalie. Take that into heart. Great. Anyone else got something they would like to share or ask?
I would, Tony, is that okay? I know the time and effort it takes to organise this, and I also know. So thank you so much for doing it and inviting us to do this. I would also like to say that it's quite a sensitive thing to do, and we did put quite a bit of thought, and Alison put quite a lot of preparation into how to do this safely and how to do it in a way that meant that we were doing a specific bit of the whole piece of the work that Alison does with birth trauma, and I think it worked really well in doing that. So I wanted to say thank you for organising it, but also Alison, thank you for the work that you put into it, and actually it feels as if we did a good, safe job, and that is really good, a good takeaway.
And thank you for trusting me, and thank you for inviting me.
Lots of great thank yous going around. I love all this appreciation in the room. Thank you. Anyone else got something to offer, or in terms of a share, or maybe a question?
Well, I'm fairly new to Havening, so I haven't got my certification yet, although I've done a lot of case studies. Probably done about 50 case studies at this stage, but that was kind of like the second time I tried role havening. Just the part of going into, because I was the practitioner, and so I had to be someone's doctor, and that it was a wee bit nerve-wracking, trying not to come up with, trying to think of what a doctor might have said, but I don't know, it felt a little bit under pressure trying to be that person, or I was listening to what she had to say and I just kind of fed it back sort of a little bit, but it was a wee bit difficult and uncomfortable to do that. So perhaps what that other man said, you know, letting the person be both so that they get the answer that they maybe wanted to hear. In hypnotherapy, I would do that with forgiveness work. I would let them say what they have to say in their own minds to that person, and then imagine that person's there and they respond in the way that they would have most liked them to. So I don't know if maybe that would be too much for the person to go through. I don't know. But I don't know if anyone else felt that, any pressure when they were the one taking on the role.
Seeing Fiona, did you want to just say something? Or just unmute?
Yeah, Jack was working with me, so you know what you say, Maggie. I've experienced role havening both ways. The way that Alison was doing today, which is generally the way that we're taught within the havening world. But I've done quite a lot of role havening as a journey practitioner, and that's much more in the way that Jack worked with me. And within that time frame, I would say that the way he picked that up was actually perfect for me. So every client will always be different, and it's very much just about opening your heart to be with them and just allowing to flow through you what feels most appropriate in that moment with that person. So well done for doing that, you know, your second role havening. Brilliant.
Thank you, Fiona and Maggie. And you know, there's flex in the system. People have come to havening with all kinds of backgrounds and experience under their belt, and some are newer to the therapeutic world of work than others, but plenty to learn from each other here, and the practice groups allow us to do that. An article I will share when we post the videos, some of you will have already seen it in the resource library, that goes sort of complements the one that I've got here right in front of me that Alison wrote, that you'll also have access to. I suggest in there an alternative of empty chair role havening. So it's kind of like the client is either self-havening or you're havening them. And then there's an empty space where they can put whoever they want, and they can hear whatever answers they want. They could go inside and meet them in the most perfect place to meet them, you know, and bring others into the room to support that conversation and so on. So there's tons of flex in the system, and you know, try the different ways, because the more flexibility we've got, the more we're going to hit the spot for a very wide range of clients.
Yeah. I'm just reminded of another form, different but can work very well, which is Gina Picker's skills, I forgot the name of it now, but it's like person transpirational havening, where you actually just say the name of the person while they're havening, and that you don't have to say any detail. And I'm sadly to say it's mother, or whoever the other is, and that releasing a lot of the emotions without actually saying what they are particularly. So, and Gina, sorry, I'm sure Gina Picker's girl would share information on that. And my voice is going. Sorry.
No, that's great. Gina's on the Facebook forum. If you wanted to connect with Gina and find out a little more about the process she specifically uses, as I understand it, a lot of people have found that very powerful. So thank you for sharing and reminding us on that one, Lou. I know I've just noticed, Natalie, you've got a question for Alison. Do you want to just unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, so my question is whether you've worked with a couple that are due to have a baby. So I've been working with two people separately, a guy, and then he recommended his girlfriend, and now she's come to me, and she's got 6 weeks left to go, and possibly doing a session with them together, an outcome of a healthy baby, a good birth, but they've got their own stuff going on separately that I've dealt with, and I'm just conscious of things to consider, and whether that's worked well or whether you keep it surface levels, because they've both got their own agendas, really. So that's my kind of question. Any experience? How would usually I'd go with my instinct, but I thought, as I've got you here, have you done that, and what would you recommend?
Alison, do you want to unmute yourself?
I have done it a little bit, and sometimes getting them to do it to one another. So even just safe, peaceful and calm, or that's quite helpful. So because then they can use that in labour as well. So if it all gets a bit much, because they do all this preparation for birth, and then they go into a system that is not so conducive to the things that they want particularly. So it's helpful if they can do it on each other during labour if she's feeling afraid, because they're the things that come up. And it's what we call emotional dystocia. They get stuck emotionally, and then the labour doesn't progress, or it's partly because of the environment. It's not warm and soft lighting. There's often lots of people coming and going. It doesn't feel safe. So it's quite nice for them to be for him to be able to do it for her, certainly. And also the outcome having, imagining what does your perfect birth look like for both of them. And so they're visualising it a bit like they would do in hypnobirthing, and visualising what the perfect birth looks like. But I mean, one of my long goals would be that all women can actually haven themselves, particularly during labour, because they do a lot of preparation for birth, but then they're going into a system that sometimes doesn't even look at the birth plan. So then they're kind of coerced and bullied, sadly, but that is very often women's experiences. I mean, one of the other things that I'm working with a little bit is healing their own births as well. So, because women carry, I mean, from the work that I'm doing, you see how, so if I'm working with somebody who's got birth trauma, when I start to take a bit more of a history, she had a birth trauma when she was born herself, or her mother did, or there was a death in childbirth some further down the line. So almost epigenetically, it sort of stays until it's healed. So healing their own births as well can be helpful. And,
wow, do you want to say a little bit more about that, Alison? I'm sure that, I mean, we could do a whole new session, but
I think it is a whole nother session.
How do you do that when there's no, that's something I often don't understand, when there's no memory of the trauma, like with, obviously you're a tiny baby, like what do you do?
I mean, I have done it instinctively a few times where I've thought, I actually don't know where to go with this. And I don't get an activation, but I just get them to start applying havening touch and try to imagine themselves in the womb and being born. And it's really powerful. But it's I've done it a few times. It's evolving. But it's.
Would you kind of do it like outcome havening in the way that they would maybe have wanted to be born instead? Is it?
Well, it could. I mean, I've done it with several different circumstances. It's almost like you try to get them to imagine themselves there in the womb. What do they hear, feel, see? And it's amazing what they do hear, feel and see. And people go, well, I can't believe that I'm really feeling this, but it's amazing how many emotions there are, because babies are conscious beings and they are taking all of that on in utero. They're very much aware of their surroundings. So sometimes healing some of that if their own birth was difficult.
I think because even if it's metaphorically going through that process, there's a lot of healing within there. Certainly I've done a lot of timeline work and it's ended up going right back to when just born or even into the womb in the way that they're representing that timeline. And we've just worked with what they brought up. Sometimes it's just a felt sense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff, the womb stuff, which sounds a bit weird, but it's very unveiling. I mean, one of the trainings I was at with Louise, I did something with somebody. She said, "Oh, I want to go back to my birth, before my birth," and she discovered. I mean, it was a felt sense, and I think a lot of this, this stuff of going back in utero is a felt sense. And she discovered. I mean, we don't know whether it's true or not. But she discovered through the havening that we were doing that she was a twin, that she'd lost her twin, and she could see herself at this. She was probably about 12 weeks as a fetus. She saw herself as a tiny little fetus, about 12 weeks. And then she said, "There's somebody else there, but he's gone now." And she has always felt this sense of loss throughout her whole life. And when we went back to that birth, it's cleared, and her life is completely different because she's accessed where that loss came from. So it's a whole new field. Yeah.
Lou, did you have something you wanted to add in there?
Sorry?
Did you want to add anything in
Yes,
there?
I mean, there's been some extraordinary experiences, and I know from Alison's case histories how remarkable some of those have been. From her, I've had experiences. Sorry, excuse me. I've had a bit of a temperature today. My voice is a bit rough. Excuse me. That I've had experience of taking somebody in transpirational havening and going back from a family story of being trapped as a toddler and being needed resuscitation, but only the family story of that from when this person was about 18 months old, linking to an event havening that I did on a failed neck operation, and then that linked into this early memory of early recounting of a trauma, and that went back just with transpirational havening into the womb. This was somebody who was, a very powerful clinician, and was quite astonished. Went back into the womb, and the debrief was that was the age of about 10 to 12 weeks, and there was that sense of loss, which is what you just said, Alison, but that sense of loss and not knowing whether there was going to be life or not life, life or not life. And in the debrief that we did, one of the questions was, was this person a twin? May have been a twin. And sadly, there was no family members left that they were able to clarify that with. But certainly the impact of that was quite profound. Quite profound. That, as we see at the end of when we're doing havening, that we say 10 years younger, the weight that was lifted in that session was remarkable and ongoing. So I think we need to be open to things that do seem really strange, that we can't say is or not, but the experience that the client has is their experience. And certainly in other trainings with timeline, we've had some clients that have gone back and had intergenerational discussions with ancestors that they didn't know, and they're reporting that. We know that Holocaust survivors, that there is issues around epigenetic changes and the loss that is passed on in the generations from that experience. So we're learning, we learn with an open mind, and also recognizing that we need to keep some boundaries and retain safety, but we share the learning. And thank you, Alison, for doing such a good job.
Thank you, Lou. Any other perspectives on this from others on the group? Fiona, you've still got a little hand up, but I don't know if that's from previously. Victoria, I'm seeing you're waving at me.
Yeah, Tony. Today, because the clients that I'm seeing through the NHS IAP system, I'm doing it over the phone. And in fact, today I had a client whom I haven't, excuse me, and we looked at her birth, and it is very effective actually havening over the phone. And I find that there are no distractions. It's just her voice and my voice, or their voice and my voice, and we really can fall into a place where there's a lot of effective work that can take place. And like so many people, we don't think about our births, well, we do, but maybe a lot of people don't. They just take it for granted. And I do say, why don't you check out with your mother? Because then there can be healing if they have a good relationship between mother, daughter, mother, son. It's that other connection.
Thank you, Victoria. And can I ask you, when you've worked on the phone, because I've done a little bit on the phone as well with people, when you've only worked with them on the phone, have you sent them like a little video clip to see the moves first, or,
Yeah,
or have you
I
just
do.
described it really well?
I do. I explain about havening, that it's new, etc., and then I generally suggest they should watch Tam Johnson's YouTube video. And then if they do that, then they might fall into somebody else's, you know, when they're havening on YouTube, etc. So most people are, everybody actually is pretty intrigued by it, which is really great.
And it's also quite important, I think, if ever technology lets us down and we're, say, on a Zoom call or something, we've got everyone's phone numbers when we're working with clients, and we need to pick up by just giving them a call. That can really get us out of an otherwise quite tricky situation if we're in the middle of a session. And the internet recently has been feeling the strain a little bit, and I would really recommend that if you're doing online work, have the phone number and agree that that's the number you'll call them on if for whatever reason you get...
I do ensure that they're on their own.
Yeah, thank you. And Florence, I noticed you were giving me a little wave.
I need to unmute myself first. Yes, it was just, Louise, when you were talking about people accessing memories of ancestors and so on, there is another field of therapy that is called family constellations, where you will actually notice that the system, you know, the person's system goes far beyond the person. It also includes, among others, their family. And a person can have access to information from ancestors unconsciously and reproducing some unhealed trauma in their life. So family constellation is also another way to approach this. So I would tend to believe that while havening, it's like peeling an onion in a way, and maybe at some point sensitive people might intuitively connect back to where it starts in their family. There is also hypnosis direction in France, where they do a lot of transgenerational work via hypnosis. And it's a little bit the same thing, that the person is in a way brought back by imagining, but maybe just getting into the information field of where it started, and they get this information. And whether it's true or not, doing that releases the symptoms and releases the problem, which is what we're most interested in. You know, it's working. So that's just the comment I wanted to make.
Thank you, Florence.
Nice one. Thank you. Thank you. Who else has got something they'd like to share or contribute or ask while we're here together? We're all so soaking up all of the learning. I think we're maybe reaching capacity for today. Well, okay, let's wrap up, because if you have questions that you think of later, you can put them on the Havening forum, and we'll do our best between us to answer them, and be access to the rest of the community as well. Thank you all so much for being here. I know for some of you, you've got your day ahead of you. Some of you, it's the end, and have a restful night's sleep if that's the case. Look after yourselves, keep very well, and just another big thank you to Louise and Alison for giving your time and energy this evening. Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Tony. Thanks.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.